39 years old, Everett Williams made an annual salary of $63,000 as an occupational therapist. It was a good, honest living, one that allowed him to provide for his family in their modest but loved Kensington duplex, a 2-story home they'd bought for $180,000 right after their daughter Nia was born. He drove a 2014 Honda Civic with a small dent in the rear bumper, a car that was fully paid off. On his wrist, he wore an $89 Timex watch his wife, Simone, had given him for their 5th anniversary. He was a man defined by practicality, by quiet service, and by a deep, abiding love for his wife and child. But on this particular Sunday evening, sitting at a 20-foot-long mahogany dining table in his mother-in-law's $1.6 million Chestnut Hill estate, he felt like none of those things mattered. He felt small. The air in the cavernous dining room was thick with the scent of expensive lilies and the faint, cloying smell of old money. Sunlight, heavy and golden, streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the dust motes dancing over a collection of antique silver service pieces that were probably worth more than his car. Rosalind, his mother-in-law, sat at the head of the table, a queen on her throne. She was a striking black woman in her late 60s, her skin smooth and deep brown, her salt and pepper hair styled in elegant, intricate twists. Tonight, she wore a deep blue St. John knit dress that likely cost more than 2 of Everett's paychecks, a simple $3,000 garment for a casual family dinner. "Everett, darling," Rosalind said, her voice smooth as polished glass, but with an edge that always found its mark. "How is work?" She said the word work as if it were a slightly distasteful substance she'd found on the sole of her $500 Ferragamo shoe. This was outrage moment number 1. "It's good, Rosalind. I have a new pediatric case, a little boy with sensory processing challenges. We're making some real progress," he said, his voice earnest. Rosalind offered a thin, tight smile. "That's so noble." Her eyes flickered to Simone, then back to him. It must be very fulfilling, doing such charitable work. Outrage moment number 2. The implication hung in the air, as heavy as the humidity outside. Noble, but not profitable. Fulfilling, but not impressive. Simone, beautiful and tense beside him, shifted in her chair. Her own dress, a gift from her mother, was a $700 Diane von Furstenberg wrap dress that looked out of place in their Kensington life but fit perfectly in this one. She picked at her food, a piece of salmon that had been catered from a restaurant where the tasting menu cost $250 per person. She didn't meet his eyes. She didn't defend him. She just existed in the uncomfortable space between the world she had married into and the one she had come from. Everett looked down at his plate, at the perfectly arranged microgreens, and felt the familiar, crushing weight of his wife's family's disappointment. He had no idea this dinner was merely a prelude, a quiet, civilized overture to a war that had been raging against him for 5 long years. He had no idea how wrong he was about the foundation of his own life. Do you know what it feels like to be the one person in the room everyone is counting on to fail? Let us know in the comments if you've ever felt underestimated, and stick around to see just how badly they misjudge this good man. The facade of their life was built on small, sturdy moments of domestic normalcy. Their Kensington duplex, with its creaky wooden floors and walls adorned with Nia's vibrant crayon-scrawled masterpieces, was a world away from the cold grandeur of Chestnut Hill. Here love was not measured in dollars, but in actions. It was Everett, at 6:15 a.m. every morning, carefully packing Nia's lunchbox. A turkey and cheese sandwich, a small bag of carrots, an apple, and always a little note written on a napkin. It was the smell of coffee brewing in their 10-year-old $40 Mr. Coffee machine. Their life had a rhythm. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, Everett worked late, and Simone would pick Nia up from her after-school program. On those nights, he'd come home to the sound of them laughing, often finding them curled up on their $600 Wayfair sofa, watching a Disney movie. Their joint savings account, which they had painstakingly grown to just over $100,000, was for the future, for Nia's college, for a new roof, for the possibility of one day opening his own private practice. It was their dream, a tangible thing built from a decade of careful planning and deferred gratification. He remembered the day they bought the duplex. It was a rainy Saturday in March, 11 years ago. The house was listed at $189,000, and they'd negotiated it down to $180,000. Everett, then just an intern making $32,000 a year, had presented Simone with a detailed budget he'd made in an Excel spreadsheet. "If we're careful," he'd said, his voice full of hope, "we can do this. We can own a piece of Philadelphia." Simone had laughed, her eyes shining. She wrapped her arms around his neck and kissed him, right there on the damp pavement in front of the little house on Clementine Street. "I don't need a spreadsheet, Ev. I just need you." That was the woman he had married, the one who saw him, not his paycheck, the one who believed in us more than me. Even then, Rosalind had cast a long shadow. At their housewarming party, she'd walked through the small rooms, her lips pursed. "It's cozy," she'd pronounced, running a manicured finger along a windowsill. "A good starter home. Of course, you'll want to move to a better school district before the baby comes." They had been married for 2 years. They hadn't even started trying for a child. But Rosalind was already planning their exit, already deeming their life insufficient. Now that pressure was a constant, low-grade hum in their marriage. The contrast was a weekly assault. Sundays in Chestnut Hill, with its sprawling lawns and hushed, tree-lined streets, followed by Mondays back in Kensington, with the rumbling of the L train and the vibrant, chaotic energy of the neighborhood. For Everett, their home was a sanctuary. For Simone, he was beginning to fear it had become a cage. He would watch her scroll through her sister's social media feeds, her face tight with an emotion he couldn't quite name. He saw pictures of Chloe's 3-week trip to Italy, a $20,000 excursion, and Brianna's new Audi Q7, a $70,000 SUV. They were living the life Rosalind believed they were all entitled to, and Simone was not. One evening, he came home to find Nia at the kitchen table, her tongue stuck out in concentration as she drew. Her beautiful coils, woven with the colorful plastic beads she loved, clicked softly as she moved her head. "Look, Daddy," she said, holding up a piece of construction paper. It was a drawing of their house, a simple, boxy duplex with a bright red door. "This is our castle," she announced. Everett's heart swelled. He taped the drawing to the refrigerator right next to a grocery list and a bill from the electric company. In their world, a child's drawing and a $78 utility bill shared the same sacred space. That was the normalcy they had built. A delicate, precious thing he would soon realize was under systematic attack. The campaign to dismantle his marriage had been a masterclass in psychological warfare, waged not with shouting matches, but with expertly placed whispers, condescending kindness, and the slow, corrosive drip of financial temptation. The first major salvo had come 5 years ago, on Nia's 3rd birthday. It was a small party in their backyard, a 20 by 20 foot patch of grass he'd painstakingly cultivated. He'd spent $150 at Home Depot on a small plastic slide for Nia. His friends from the neighborhood were there, their kids running through the sprinkler. Rosalind and her daughters, Chloe and Brianna, arrived an hour late, dressed for a garden party at the Hamptons, not a toddler's birthday in Kensington. Rosalind had pulled Simone aside, near the struggling rose bushes Everett was so proud of. He was grilling hot dogs on his $40 charcoal grill, but he could hear their conversation drift over. "Simone, darling," Rosalind began, her voice a conspiratorial murmur, "I've been thinking. You're so brilliant, so creative. That architecture degree is just gathering dust. I was talking to a friend who runs a venture capital fund. They're looking for boutique firms to invest in." Simone's eyes had lit up. "Really, Mom?" "Of course," Rosalind said, placing a hand on Simone's arm. "But these are serious people. They invest in individuals and visionaries. You'd need to be completely independent, unencumbered." Outrage moment number 3. The word just hung there, unencumbered. It was a delicate, precise dagger. It meant without a husband whose modest income would be a liability on a financial statement. Everett felt a cold knot form in his stomach. He flipped a hot dog with more force than necessary. Simone had come to him later that night, her mind buzzing with possibilities. "My mom thinks I could start my own firm, Ev." He had been supportive, of course. "That's amazing, honey. What would it take?" But the word unencumbered echoed in his mind. He knew, with a certainty that chilled him, that this wasn't about empowering Simone. It was about extracting her. The pressure intensified over the years with Chloe and Brianna, the aunties, acting as Rosalind's lieutenants. At every family gathering, they formed a tight, impenetrable circle with Simone, their voices a low hum of discontent. "Simone, you have to come with us to Aspen this year," Brianna would say, flashing her $3,000 Cartier love bracelet. "We're renting a chalet. It's only $15,000 for the week." Outrage moment number 4. "I can't, Bri. Everett can't get the time off, and we can't afford it," Simone would reply, her voice small. "Don't say we," Chloe would cut in, her tone sharp. "You can afford it. Mom would help. It's him that's holding you back." Outrage moment number 5. They spoke of Everett as if he wasn't in the next room, as if he were a piece of furniture, a temporary obstacle. They'd talk loudly about their friend, a divorce attorney in Center City who was a total shark, and whose billing rate was a staggering $1,200 per hour. "She gets her clients everything," Brianna would say, a pointed look at Simone. "Everything they deserve." Outrage moment number 6. The poison worked. Slowly, Simone began to change. The woman who had kissed him on a rainy street and said, "I just need you," was replaced by someone who spoke the language of her mother. Money became the central topic of their lives. Not the lack of it, but the pursuit of more. About a year ago, she approached him with a proposal. "My mom has this amazing investment opportunity," she said, avoiding his eyes. "It's a family trust she's setting up. The returns are incredible. She said if we put some money in, she can really make it grow for us." Everett was hesitant. "Simone, that's our emergency fund. That's Nia's college money. It's over $100,000. Her face hardened. "It's not doing anything just sitting in a savings account earning 0.1%, Everett. My mother is a genius with money. You have to trust her. It's my family trying to help us." Outrage moment number 7. The way she said "my family" created a chasm between them. He reluctantly agreed, not wanting to fight, wanting to believe she still saw them as a team. A month later, he checked their joint savings account. A withdrawal. $25,000. His breath caught. He approached Simone that evening as she was getting ready for bed. "Hey, I saw the transfer. You put the first bit into the trust?" "Yes," she said, her back to him as she applied a ridiculously expensive $150 jar of La Mer face cream. "Mom handled it. It's all set." She was brisk, dismissive. There was no discussion. It was a decree. Outrage moment number 8. He had no idea how much worse it was about to get. The second withdrawal came 6 months later, $40,000. This time he confronted her more directly. "Simone, that's a huge amount of money. We didn't even talk about it." "There was nothing to talk about," she snapped, her voice rising. "It was a time-sensitive opportunity. Mom said we had to move fast. Why don't you trust me? Why do you have to question everything?" Outrage moment number 9. Her phone buzzed incessantly on the counter. He saw the names on the screen. Mom, Auntie Chloe, Auntie Bry. A constant stream of instructions and encouragement. The arguments became more frequent, more bitter. She started staying late at her architecture firm, taking on extra projects she said they needed for the money. But she was also having dinner with her mother and sisters 2 or 3 times a week. They were planning sessions, he would later realize, strategy meetings for her exit. The final withdrawal happened 3 weeks ago. $29,000. He saw the transaction alert on his phone and felt a wave of nausea. Their savings, a decade of his $63,000 salary being stretched and saved, was now just a little over $6,000, $94,000 gone. That night, she brought it up. The word. "Everett," she said, sitting on the edge of their bed, not looking at him. "I think I need some space." "Space? What do you mean, space?" "I think maybe we should separate," she said, the words coming out in a rehearsed rush. "Just for a little while, so I can figure things out. We've grown apart. We want different things." Outrage moment number 10. "Different things?" he asked, his voice hollow. "I want you and Nia. What else is there?" "There's a whole world out there, Everett," she said, and in that moment he heard her mother's voice, clear as a bell. "A world you're not interested in." Outrage moment number 11. It was the cruelest thing she had ever said to him. He felt the floor drop out from beneath him. He was losing her, and he didn't even understand why. Or rather, he was beginning to understand all too well. The money, the pressure, the whispers, it had all been leading to this. The demolition was nearly complete. The final, fatal blow to the facade came not with a bang, but with a buzz. It was a Tuesday night at 9:14 p.m. Nia was fast asleep in her room, her small chest rising and falling in the gentle rhythm of childhood dreams. The house was quiet. Everett was in the living room, sitting on their worn sofa, the television off. He was trying to read a book, but the words blurred together. He was replaying that last conversation with Simone in his head, trying to find a thread to pull, a way to fix the unraveling tapestry of his marriage. His phone, a 3-year-old Samsung Galaxy he'd bought for $200, vibrated on the cushion next to him. He glanced at the screen. A new message from Rosalind. His heart gave a little lurch. A late-night text from his mother-in-law was never good news. It usually meant a demand disguised as a request or a criticism veiled as a concern. He braced himself and opened the message. It wasn't what he expected. It wasn't a string of words. It was an image, a screenshot. His brow furrowed. Why would Rosalind send him a screenshot? He tapped it, and the image filled his screen. It was a group chat from a messaging app. The name of the group displayed at the top was Project Freedom. The participants listed were Rosalind, Chloe, Brianna, and Simone. A cold dread, sharp and immediate, washed over him. He began to read. The messages were from that very afternoon. Chloe, is she finally going to do it this week? Brianna, the lawyer is ready. Just needs the final transfer to clear. She said she'd call Simone tomorrow. Rosalind, she's wavering. He's good with the child. It makes her sentimental. Rosalind, I just sent her the Zillow listing for the Rittenhouse condo, a $3 million penthouse, a reminder of what's waiting for her. And then the final, devastating message, the one that sucked all the air from his lungs. Rosalind, I can't wait until she leaves him. 5 years is long enough to be stuck in that little house with that little man. Outrage moments 12, 13, 14, and 15 landed like a volley of punches. Little house, little man, Project Freedom. The words echoed in the silent room. His world, which had been slowly tilting, suddenly capsized. He felt a strange, detached